All right, I've actually been watching a lot of movies recently. I know I often get on this podcast and complain about how little time I have to watch movies, specifically going to the theaters, which is still difficult to do. But I've made it a point to carve out some time throughout the day and stuff and catch up on some movies. So I got my letterbox pulled up. I just want to do quick shout outs to things I've watched recently, okay? Last time you and I sat down and talked was for the Fantastic Four. We had our bonus episode. Since then, I'll do a mini review of each of these. I watched Happy Gilmore 2. #PP.
Sorry.
One of the worst movies I've seen in a very, very, very long time. I'm sorry. I watched The Gate from 1987. This was actually for our annual Mac and Cheesy movie party, which happened over this past weekend. And The Gate is this corny little horror creature movie. There's a hole in this kid's backyard. Little demons crawl out of it. Super fun special effects. Highly recommend. I also watched The Crow, the original, for the first time since childhood, honestly. And even, I may not have ever sat down and watched this movie beginning to end. I definitely saw it on TV. But that probably means bits and pieces or didn't watch it start to finish. I don't know. There's parts I remembered. But I actually sat down, captive audience, watched the whole thing. First of all, it's gorgeous. This was the new 4K they released last year. I bought the Steelbook, finally watched it. It looks incredible. Second of all, I love this movie. It's amazing. Brandon Lee his story is tragic for a million and one reasons, but the things we could have got from that guy really sucks. It never came to fruition, but loved the movie. K-pop Demon Hunters on Netflix. We watched that for family movie night. It's one of the best movies I've seen of 2025. It is so good. It is exactly what you think when you hear that title, but also just genuinely great. I keep saying it has like Lord and Miller vibes. So like Cloudy the Chance of Meatballs, the Spider-Verse movies, Mitchell versus the Machines. If you're a fan of those, I can't recommend K-pop Demon Hunters enough. Plus, of course, the music is awesome. And then this morning, Andrew, before we recorded here, I watched Thelma and Louise, a movie I had never seen before. Obviously, I knew how it ended, and, I absorbed so much through osmosis of pop culture. I knew the parody and the references, definitely. But this is my first time actually watching the movie. I watched the 4K that Criterion put out. Again, I bought it like a year ago and just finally got around to actually watching it.
Yeah.
Hot take,
Who
Andrew.
does that? Who does that? Who buys movies and then doesn't watch them immediately?
There's literally a stack on your desk I can see that is taller than you of movies you purchased that I assume have not watched. But my hot take on Thelma and Louise is that it's fantastic and it's one of the best movies in the 90s. And
I think that's about as ice cold a take as you get, dude.
Ridley Scott knows how to direct a movie, turns out. Honestly, as for director filmographies, Ridley Scott. You probably don't love every single Ridley Scott movie, but the variety in that man's filmography.
Oh yeah,
but
unbelievable.
You typically see that kind of variety for like a journeyman director that's just a steady hand that gets hired. But he has like the creative. I almost said oversight. That's not the right word, but the creative hand of an auteur. But the stories that he shapes vary so much from project to project. It's really outstanding.
I mean, because the context here, folks, is if you don't know, he directs Thelma and Louise.
Oh yes, yeah.
Did
I not say that?
If you're not sure what that is, no. But like obviously you have like he's known for like sci-fi with like Alien and Blade Runner, but then like you have or The Martian or his kind of late stage Alien stuff that he did. But then there's like you said, there's Thelma and Louise mixed in there, and there's Legend mixed in there, the weird fantasy movie, like American Gangster.
Gladiator,
Kingdom of Heaven, like Gladiator, Black Hawk Down, like it's insane. Like the only person who maybe like Steven Spielberg, I think, also has a pretty good range within his filmography.
I feel like when Steven Spielberg steps outside of his zone, it feels like an exception. Whereas Ridley Scott is, I think, more consistently bouncing around. Like, maybe I'm overstepping. Kind of like Martin Scorsese has a Martin Scorsese zone, but every now and then does a Hugo or something kind of out of the box. But still always goes back to like his comfort zone. And maybe that's sci-fi with Ridley Scott. But still, I mean, That's great company to be in if those are the other names we can think of.
Like if those are the names you can think of, yeah, you're doing pretty good. But no, that's wild. But yeah, it's a good little run of movies. I have 10 movies for July in my letterbox, but they're all stuff I saw in the theaters. So,
and presumably movies you've watched for this podcast too, Andrew.
Yes, but I don't always log those.
Oh, okay.
I do watch them, but
you don't obsessively log every single thing that you watch.
I turns out.
I watched
and
the.
Like, to be fair, not everything is a new release either. Some of them are things I saw in theaters that were not new.
Okay.
And I don't know why I'm being coy about what they are. But
what have you watched this month, Andrew?
So obviously we did Fantastic Four and Superman for the show. But I also saw Jurassic World Rebirth. #PP. Not my favorite.
It's probably better than Happy Gilmore 2.
I think Jurassic World Rebirth suffers a little bit of the Terminator Dark Fate scenario, where I think if Dominion wasn't so fresh on people's minds, it might have done a little bit better. Although it's still making like $1 billion because people love Jurassic Park movies. Did go to the theaters to see Attack the Block. They were doing that at Alamo, which one of my favorites. I saw F1, which was another instance with Joe Kosinski where I was like, ugh. Guy's gonna make me go watch a movie about something I don't care about, and then like halfway through the movie, I was like, "This is awesome."
And the thing you don't care about is Brad Pitt.
Yeah, specifically. I did go to a Music Box Theater in town to see Day of the Dead for its 40th anniversary. The third film in George Romero's original. I'm
not looking for a hot take here or anything, Andrew. But what are your thoughts on you say
Day of the Dead?
Oh, you said Day of the Dead, but in my head I was thinking Dawn of the Dead. I don't think I've seen Day of the Dead.
It's the third one.
Yeah.
I liked it. It's definitely not as good as Night of the Living Dead or Dawn of the Dead, as far as I'm concerned. Was your hot take that the original Dawn of the Dead is overrated?
I'm not going to use the word overrated. I think the makeup is terrible, and we don't talk about it. I think the zombies look awful in that movie. That's all.
Oh. This one I think the zombies look pretty good in Day of the Dead because there's like a big focus on one in particular, because one of the subplots of Day of the Dead is one of these scientists is trying to see if we can basically domesticate zombies.
Okay.
So there's a zombie that gets a lot of presence. Bud is the zombie's name. And he ends up being one of the funniest payoffs in the whole movie when things kind of go off the rails in the third act, as they tend to do in these types of movies. I liked watching it on the big screen. It was a nice 35mm print. All the scratches and pops that come with that. Just something, I love watching a pristine 4K of something, but sometimes being in the theater, watching it, as it was at the time, there's something to be said for that. Everything else I've seen was mostly new. I saw the new I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's garbage, and I already pre-ordered the 4K.
So it's right. It fits right in with the franchise then. #PP.
Of course it does. Of course it does. Anybody pretending these were ever like great is lying to you. I saw Mithrigan 2. That was fine. Not by any means a horror movie at that point. And then I ended up seeing one called The Home, which is a weird horror movie from the guy who made The Purge with Pete Davidson. That one was strange. But yeah. And then I watch stuff at home all the time. I've been watching a lot of Murder, She Wrote at home, though, so nothing really to log on Letterboxd for that. So.
I gotcha. I know I have to miss something every now and then, but I try to log every single movie I watch. I watched the new Mike Birbiglia special on Netflix, and that was on Letterboxd, so I had logged that. I just like to see how many movies they can watch in a year, I guess. And of course, one movie that I did log that I didn't mention in my rundown was the third Venom movie. We're going to talk about that at length right after this theme song.
We're not talking about the best of them. We're just talking about the rest of them.
Not the worst parts, but the best parts. And the best parts we have. The best of the rest.
Hello, and welcome to Best of the Rest. My name is Chris Logan, and I am joined as always by my shoeless co-host, Andrew Williams, say something to the listeners, Andrew.
Something to the listeners.
Each week, we take a second look at a movie that was poorly received upon release and challenge ourselves to only talk about the things we like and what the movie does well. It's Comic Book Movie Month, and this week we are talking the 2024 film Venom: The Last Dance. I don't know if this is the first time this has happened on the history of our show, Andrew, but we have now covered every single movie in the Venom franchise. Do you think we've knocked out any complete franchise before? And I'll say, at least a minimum 3 movies. Because we did both Tim Story Fantastic Fours. It's only 2 movies.
Like we haven't, mostly because in the case of stuff like this, they're like you could argue that we haven't done the I don't know what this Marvel, what do they call it now, the SMU, the Sony the I don't
Sony
know,
Spider-Man universe is what they call it.
The SSU.
Yeah.
Because there's other movies in the SSU that we did not do. In fact, the only one we haven't done is Madame Web. But otherwise, we would have done all of the movies within the SSU. Usually, there's at least one genuinely great movie in a franchise. That means Jurassic Park. I think we've done all of them at this point, except the first one, which means we can't quite take credit for it. So, but yeah, we've done all 3 Venoms, which is impressive.
Well, Andrew, this movie did not come out that long ago, less than a year ago at the time of this recording. What is your history with the film? Did you see it in theaters? I assume you did, right?
I did. I saw it in theaters, and I haven't watched it since. So,
yeah. Well, this week, you mean? You did watch it again
till now.
You're not just
till now. Yeah,
relying that much on your memory. I'm sure.
I actually am. No, I'm kidding. I truly saw it in theaters when it came out. Everyone was kind of, the Knoll stuff came out, and everybody was a little interested in how that was going to kind of all come about. But yeah, so I was there.
Same story. I saw it in theaters, and then I didn't watch it again until getting ready for this podcast. Now, dear listeners, maybe you've listened to our first 2 Venom episodes, or maybe you haven't, but I would say, Andrew, that, I don't know, we probably both like those Venom movies okay or well enough. I think I'm just a smidge hotter on them than you, but they're not our favorite, they're not the worst, we're somewhere in the middle of the road, maybe.
Yeah,
I like 2 significantly more than 1, and I think I said that on that episode. Friend of the show, my wife, really likes the Venom movies. She thinks Venom is just adorable, and she likes the interactions with Brock. So we were definitely going to see this one in theaters. What, friend of the show, my wife, her specifically? She's the target.
No, I think specifically everybody. They want Venom to just be adorable. That's what they're. That's the intention.
He is. I mean, I think. Okay, again, to kind of recap, I think that first movie, it's hit and miss, especially with its tone and how serious it wants to be. But when Venom says, "On my planet, I'm sort of a loser, like you," I'm like, that's it. That's the key to all of this. Dig into that. And I think the second movie, which I think is 90 minutes long, is just fun Venom, fights an over-the-top villain, and gets in and gets out. And I think they really nailed the formula there. And then they made this third movie. And we're going to talk about it. Look, hashtag Positivity Podcast. We are going to dig into the positives, but it's not the swing I was expecting, I guess. How about that?
Yeah, I think that's the general response.
The movie was released October 25th, 2024. It's made on a budget of $120 million. At the box office, it brings in $478.9 million. That's pretty good. I want to come back to it. Critically, it's not well received, but more or less in line with the rest of the franchise. Has a 40% critic score, 79% audience score. All 3 of these movies are, rotten on the critic side, but very well received on the audience side. So no surprises there. Now, the box office, I think, is interesting because that is successful. I mean, even a budget, $120 million, $478.9, you're making your money back. But that first movie made over $800 million. That movie was so big. And I think it's a testament to how big superhero movies had gotten pre-pandemic. I mean, like $1 billion is happening regularly. "Quote unquote" lesser movies were making like 600 million plus. Like, it was nuts. And then the second Venom movie doesn't make as much, but that's 2021, I think, which we are still, people aren't quite going back to the theaters. And I think
$500 million, like, in the COVID fall, in like the second COVID fall, is actually like pretty good. Like,
it is.
in the
It is.
grand
I mean,
scheme of things. Like,
compared to the first
it's
movie,
not
you
Spider-Man
always
numbers, but
you always want to go up and up and up. So 300 million less. But yeah, once you factor in COVID, I think it's doing all right. And then, this movie here is even less, but we're far enough out of the pandemic that I don't think anyone's staying home for fear of getting sick or anything like that, But theaters haven't really come back. I mean, this isn't, not breaking news or anything. COVID did a big number on like sending movies straight to streaming or streaming simultaneous with theaters. And there's like maybe a 60-day window for something is theaters to streaming. So I think it's just really killed that urgency to see a movie in theaters. So I don't know exactly what to make of that $478.9 million. It's successful. Like, I'm not going to act like it's not. I'm curious what studio expectations were, though, in the landscape this movie was released.
Yeah.
Creatively, this is interesting. All three Venom movies have a different director. This movie is written and directed by first-time director Kelly Marcel. Now, Kelly Marcel has been in the industry for quite a while. They used to be an actor, I think even a child actor, so they've been in the business like their entire life, but breaks in on the creative side. I shouldn't say the creative side, like acting isn't creative. Breaks in on the behind the camera side, when she sells her script for Saving Mr. Banks, which every time I read that title, Andrew, I think of that Kevin Costner movie where he's a serial killer. What was that movie called?
Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Brooks. I'm like, she wrote that movie,
Dane
huh?
Cook.
Yes. Yeah. And it's got a
Possibly the
silly
possibly
twist.
the only Dane Cook movie worth watching. And I use that lightly. #PP.
He's a voice in the movie Planes, Andrew. Did you consider that? Take that into account?
I absolutely consider that.
She continues to write in Hollywood. She writes the script for 50 Shades of Grey. She is a writer on the first Venom movie and the second. She's remained a part of the franchise. Has just a story credit on Cruella, as well as some uncredited script rewrites on various projects. So she is in more than one inner circle. She's in with Disney. She's also obviously in with Sony, working on these Venom movies. And I do believe it's actually Tom Hardy, who is a producer on the Venom movies, who pushes for her to finally step into the director's chair. Is that how it works? You step into a chair, sit in the director's chair for this movie, making her directorial debut.
Yeah, I think, and you just look at her other items here. She's got, apparently, she was reported to have done an emergency final rewrite of the script on the 2008 film Bronson, which also features Tom Hardy. And then she also supposedly did some uncredited script work on Mad Max Fury Road and was thanked in the credit. So that, I think, gets her, a working relationship with Tom Hardy, who I think when he starts kind of, shepherding these Venom films, he just sees her as somebody that he can bring in to help bring that to life, to the point that, like you said, she was a writer on the first one, writer on the second, and then writer and director here on the third. Otherwise, yeah, like you said, just slowly moving up.
I think,
good for her.
I don't know if it's even correct anymore to say, of all the movies we've covered, we can count the female directors on one hand. She might be starting a second hand, which, when you consider we're past 200 episodes, it's still not great. But, you know, you love to see people get these opportunities regardless.
Yeah, she also has recently worked on some television stuff as well. She was the showrunner on an Apple TV Plus show, The Changeling. I don't know if that's related to any of the films of the same name. And she was also a creator on the show Terra Nova back in 2011. So still out there, still doing stuff, working, doing her thing, which is cool.
Well, Andrew, I think it's time that we jump into it, talk about this film, specifically all the positives and everything we like, everything it does well, everything we like about Venom, The Last Dance. Andrew, you ready?
Yes.
Noel is an intergalactic being that created the symbiotes, but now finds himself imprisoned. The only way to escape imprisonment is with a codex, which is only formed when a symbiote resurrects its host. So Noel teleports symbiote-eating xenophages to Earth to find Venom, who carries a codex after resurrecting Eddie Brock. Eddie is already being hunted by the authorities after being framed for the death of Officer Mulligan, and now, when he fully transforms into Venom, the Codex sends a beacon to these space creatures as well. The chase eventually leads everyone to Area 51, where more symbiotes are being held captive for study, and all hell breaks loose. Andrew, did I get all the exposition in there? Did you follow that? Do you understand the structure here?
No.
Let me read it again. Noel is an intergalactic being.
Spare me. Spare me.
We kid. Hashtag PP. Boy, we've talked on this podcast before about an opening wall of text, right? How usually it's like, not the best sign that you have to explain so much world building or plot before the movie starts. This movie does not have an opening wall of text, but it does have opening narration that functions pretty much the same way. I don't know, is that marginally a step up from just reading on the text to have a character say it out loud? What do you think, Andrew? Or think it out loud? He's actually not speaking. He's not talking to anybody. He's just, are those his thoughts we're hearing in the beginning?
I guess. Also, how never mind.
Hashtag positive podcast precludes that thought from coming out, Andrew. Is that what I'm sensing?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, exactly what you're sensing.
Andrew, there are positives to talk about, though, performances to talk about, and that's where we're going to start with the cast of this film, and we're going to start with the high point, best casting, best performance in the movie, because every episode we recognize one person who goes so far above and beyond the Call of Duty that they actually elevate the quality of the entire film with their performance. We recognize that person by giving them the Mark Strong Award. Andrew, kick us off. Who is getting your Mark Strong Award for Venom: The Last Dance?
I'm going to be going with, these movies clearly mean a lot to him. He's been the steward behind all of them in a way. So I'm just going to be going straight with Venom himself, Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock / Venom. These movies have been a weird journey. I know he's been a huge part of it. I know he had a writing credit on this movie. To the point that like it was credited, or story credit on this movie, and I think he had a story credit on 2 as well. And so clearly movies that he cares about, wants to make, wants to see through. And in that regard, you can sense it. He likes playing this character. The character means a lot to him. And the banter, basically just him talking to himself,
right,
has been one of the hallmarks of the movie that people love. And so that effort that he puts in, it shows. Obviously, he has, like I said, he takes a lot of pride in this character. And I know there's a lot of fans of it too. Like, I know that there are definitely big fans of these movies, and it's in no small part due to what Tom Hardy is doing with this character. And with this movie, he has to do a lot of that heavy lifting, as the movie is basically just him running through various locations for a lot of it. And so having to anchor that, having to still make it entertaining, Tom Hardy is the Mark Strong Award winner. Possible multiple times? No way to check.
No way to check, no way to know, but I do think this is a great pick, Andrew. I mean, you're right. He's obviously the cornerstone of these movies. I almost forget to give him credit for his role as Venom because I don't necessarily recognize his voice, however they alter it whenever he's voicing Venom. But yeah, the fact that he has chemistry with himself, and that's the driving force in the movies, is pretty outstanding. Tom Hardy as an actor it's a weird one, Andrew, because he has like all the makings to be like a super serious, dramatic actor that's just in high profile dramas. I mean, he is like hot take incoming, Andrew. He's very good at this acting thing, right? I think think you and I agree on this point. We talked about it before. He's in The Revenant, which is famously the movie where Leonardo DiCaprio finally gets his Oscar win. But I think Tom Hardy is even better in that movie. I think he steals the show from Leonardo DiCaprio. He's so damn good in that. You know, he's in like several Christopher Nolan movies where he's super captivating, super serious. But he is also in a million other things where it's either like low budget or silly or a movie I've never heard of. Like how he picks roles is wild to me. Speaking of The Revenant, that's 2015. He's in 5 movies that year. And if you run through them, he's in Child 44, never heard of it. Mad Max Fury Road, all-time action movie. London Road, never heard of it. Legend, never heard of it. The Revenant, great movie, high-profile role. He's awesome in it. Like, it's just all over the place. Movies I've never heard of, movies that are kind of, Venom is somewhere in all of that. You know, like he could be on that Leonardo DiCaprio path of chasing after the best actor Oscar, but he also makes 3 Venom movies, which are just so ridiculous. I mean, he's not bad in them, but it's just it's just interesting, I guess. It's just an interesting way to do your career.
Yeah. He basically gets to do whatever he wants. Which is the best part. Like, I can't imagine that there's any real issues there. That you can basically just, you can do, if you want to do something serious and dramatic, you can, like he did that movie, The Bike Riders. And then at the same time, does stuff like Venom. So, can't, it's the dream, right? That's what you want.
Well, I mean, you're right. Tom Hardy is fully committed, and that's what you want. I do like him across these 3 movies. I maybe have given him the Mark Strong Award before. No way to check, no way to know. But this go around, I'm actually going to go in a different direction. I'm going to give it to, technically an alum of the show, Rhys Ifans as Martin Moon. I've seen this guy in a million things. I still don't know if I pronounced his name correctly. Speaking of, I've seen this guy in a million things. I did not recognize him in this movie. I didn't know until after seeing it in theaters who that was. I guess it's the long shaggy hair and the beard. I don't know. But he plays this hippie dad named Martin, who's just delightful. He's so welcoming to Eddie, even though he's like a lunatic wandering around in the woods. He's got some genuinely great comedic scenes. I love the tone that he's bringing. And the reason I want to give him the Mark Strong Award is because 1, he nails that tone. And 2, I secretly wish we got more of the movie in that tone. But at the very least, we get his scenes that I think are all fantastic. I mentioned he's an alum of the show. He was in a bonus episode we did for Spider-Man No Way Home, as well as he plays the leg in the Replacements, which we also covered. So at least 2 times we've had a chance to talk about him. I'm sure we praised him on both of those episodes because he's a great actor, and I loved seeing him here.
Yeah, I remember The Replacements quite vividly. So anytime I see him on my screen, I'm happy to see him. He's been in all.
He looks nothing like he does in The Replacements. Do you think you look at him in this movie and you're like, oh yeah, Rhys, what's up, old buddy? Like, you have no problem recognizing him?
Yeah, he's not. He's the same man, Chris. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
Andrew, do I need to see a doctor?
Yes, apparently. He's also he's just great. Like, I mean, anything that I've basically seen him in, like I said, I'm happy to see him. The Replacement's obviously the big one for me, but then throughout the years, just anytime. Amazing Spider-Man, obviously. Big fan of him there, where he got to play Kirk Connors / the Lizard. Don't think we covered that one on the show because it actually did pretty well.
Yeah, we just covered 2, I think.
And then just obviously reprising that role in Spider-Man No Way Home, plenty of other things. But like I said, I'm always happy to see him. And still out there, was recently just on House of the Dragon. So he's still out there doing his thing. But here, he's adding, like you said, he's creating a little bit more of the tone you might expect after like Venom and Venom 2. Just kind of like we're having some fun hijinks. I was definitely afraid for him at many times during this movie, and I was glad to see that his family escapes this with no issue. But otherwise, yeah, I think this is a good pick. It adds a little bit of heart and a good bit of humor to the proceedings just to make things go. Because this is a pretty serious plot generally about what's going forward. I mean, basically this thing's trying to kill Venom / Eddie. So he injects a little bit of humor, makes things flow a little less, makes things look a little less dire for our characters, and the movie's all the better for it.
All right, let's go through some of the supporting cast here. Let's start with a few returning faces. Gotta recognize Peggy Lou as Mrs. Chin. This is fun. She's a convenience store owner that's in the first 2 movies because that convenience store is, in the neighborhood. They find a way to make her pop up here and not even care that it's convoluted because she's delightful. She's great. She's fun. I'm trying to remember. She reprises this role even in Across the Spider-Verse, right? I think she pops up there for a brief second to voice the role.
The Spot, no, she's live action.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Sticks his head into the Venomverse, and she's sitting there, and she's not phased at all by what's happening, which is why the Spot is so confused. Also, shout out to the fact that Across the Spider-Verse made the Spot a compelling villain.
Fantastic. Yes, but she's again, I'll say, just like my Mark Strong Award winner, bringing the tone that I want from these movies. She has would you call it the titular last dance, Andrew? I mean, there's a literal dance number in this movie, which isn't, when I saw the title, I wasn't expecting they would go that literal with it, but they do. And it's a little weird how we get there, but in the moment, I'm enjoying it. And she's a lot of fun. Love to see her.
Yeah, she's a fun character.
Great. Looks great in that dress.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to sneak that in.
Yeah. No. Mrs. Chen can get it. I think we've all established that. And it's interesting looking at her filmography. There's no way we haven't mentioned the fact that she's apparently Mother Chen in Kung Pao Enter the Fist, right?
Well, I don't think I knew that, Andrew.
It's on her Wikipedia page.
It's possible we did. It's Mother Chen. So she's got to be the one. We probably did mention it because she's got to be the one where the chosen one is his family is killed. And then he has a baby, crawls out of the burning house and starts rolling down a hill for a very long time before settling on a road. And then a woman comes by and finds the baby, picks him up and says, "Oh, so cute." And then continues to roll him down the hill, and he keeps rolling. It's one of the best jokes in the movie. I don't know if that's what Mother Chin means. I can't imagine what else it would be.
Sounds like you got to rewatch it, Chris.
Darn. I gotta watch one of my favorite comedies. Oh no.
Yeah, she's a fun character. Always happy to say, completely forced thing here, where there's no reason for this character to be in any of these proceedings, but I'm not sad that they found a way to work her in.
Stephen Graham returns as Patrick Mulligan. He's an officer. We saw him in the second movie. And Andrew, every time I see this man, I cannot believe it's not Donnie Wahlberg. Come at me. But I Googled it, and plenty of other people do the same thing. He shows up. I'm like, oh yeah, I forget one of the Wahlbergs is in this movie. Nope. Stephen Graham, not related to the Wahlbergs.
You
but
put some respect on his name, dude. Jesus.
Sorry. What can I say? I apparently have a brain condition, and we'll look into it. I'll update you later. But he plays Patrick Mulligan, but much different role because he is presumed dead, but actually being held captive at Area 51 because he is host to a symbiote. And his role here is to look like he's on the verge of death and give creepy exposition and a weird dialogue because the symbiote is controlling him. It's kind of not at all like what he did in the second movie, but still cool to have that continuity, cool to have a character return and, find a new way to use him.
Yeah, it's weird because they imply that the symbiote that infects him after Carnage leaves him and he gets a different one, which I think is supposed to be Toxin, because the symbiotes all have specific names that all mean various forms of things that kill you. Sure. So I think Toxin is meant to be the green one that he becomes here. I don't think they ever identified the one he gets at the end of 2. But yeah, he basically gives the Area 51 folks some backstory on Noel and his plans and what's going on. And then has a brief moment where he saves Venom and then gets devoured by a space rhino.
As you do. And I think that's all of our returning characters. So let's look at some of the new players. Chiwetel Ejiofor is in this movie as Army Guy. What's his name here?
Rex Strickland.
Rex Strickland, thank you. But he's the military guy that just wants to kill everything and isn't interested in studying it. He just wants it eliminated because it's a threat. And Andrew, is it a cliche? Maybe, but I kind of get it. It kind of makes sense. I'm kind of on this guy's side for most of this movie. But he plays the role well, super stern, super unforgiving, has a bit of an arc where he kind of comes around at the end and sees that not all symbiotes are trying to kill us, but they kind of all get killed anyway, so what's it really matter? But
yeah, basically.
He's good at the strict thing, the performance thing, the military thing. What else do we know this guy from? Definitely the MCU with the Doctor Strange movies, where he plays God, what's his character's name in those movies? Do you know the guy?
Baron Mordo.
There it is. The other wizard, the bad wizard.
Sorcerer.
And he's
Not wizards.
the bad magician, the bad illusionist.
Illusions, Michael.
But here now he's in, extending that line at his conventions by being in the Sony Spider-Man universe as well.
Is he though?
I bet he signed at least one piece of Venom memorabilia, Andrew. I bet it's happened.
Yeah, probably, I guess. I don't know that he does conventions, so maybe not. But
he will.
So who knows?
They all do. They'll get that.
Yeah, so this is an interesting because this is a character that is from the comics. He is introduced during the Donny Cates run on Venom, which is where a lot of the pieces of this movie come from. That's where Noel comes from. That's where Rex Strickland comes from, and a couple of other characters. So he, in the comics, he's a soldier in Vietnam that was part of a super soldier initiative as the host of a symbiote. I believe they called it the Tyrannosaurus symbiote, which awesome name. But eventually Tyrannosaurus symbiote comes back, but that's kind of the backstory in there, is that he's got a history with symbiotes in the comics that kind of plays into the current events, whereas here he's just, like you said, he's kind of just generic army guy, who, like you said, is just like, I don't trust these things and I want them gone. Which for most of the movie you're just kind of like, yeah, I get it. It makes sense. But yeah, so he's, the right level of attention to detail given to the character, but again, pretty one note, not a whole lot of depth. Does ultimately make a big sacrifice at the end to help defeat the xenophage. Yeah.
Juno Temple plays Teddy Payne, a scientist at Area 51 studying the symbiotes. Andrew, I saw this movie before I ever watched Ted Lasso. This is the first time I saw Juno Temple. When I saw this in theaters, I was like, what an interesting looking person. Juno Temple is a very, very unique looking person. I thought this casting was I had no idea who this person was, but I was like, they've clearly cast somebody as this scientist. Like, this is specific casting. Now I've gone back and I've seen Ted Lasso. It's great. One of the best shows ever made, blah, 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 blah. So I understand they're trying to pull, she's trying to take the next step, big franchise movie, moving on up. And I understand that this movie feels like it's setting her up to return in other movies. Doesn't seem likely it's actually going to come to fruition, but that's certainly what they were thinking with the casting and with this role in general. As far as her performance in the movie, I don't. She's fine, but again, it feels like her show is going to come in like the next movie. They gave her this big traumatic backstory with her brother that died, and she's got survivor's guilt, and gets to wear symbiote at the end of the movie that fixes her damaged arm, and then Where do they go from there? We don't know. That's for a spinoff, but I I would like to see Juno Temple in other movies. I hope this isn't like the one shot. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and this is another one where like she's supposedly playing like a version of a character. There is a Dr. Thaddeus Payne in the comics. I think he was a Morbius villain originally. But eventually Dr. Payne does experiment on Eddie Brock and Venom, and then I think they get revenge by imbalancing his brain, which brutal way to do that. But so they're implying this is a version of that character. I don't really know why, because this person's not villainous at all. Actually just has like a whimsical, like wide-eyed optimism about the work she does and what's out in the world and out in space. And then she does eventually bond with they call it the Agony symbiote, which is the one of the 5 symbiote children that basically are forced out of Venom and Lethal Protector, along with Riot, Lasher, Phage, and Scream. See, these are like, if it was Agony, Riot, Lasher, Phage, and Scream,
It sounds like
a list, I would be like, this is like the weekend metal show at your local dive bar.
yeah, or like the stage name for all the members of a hair metal band.
It's like everyone, the lead guitar, Riot. But
Lead guitar of Symbiote, Toxin.
So those are all from Lethal Protector. But so she bonds with the symbiote at one point in this movie. So does everybody. And you get a symbiote. I think the only person who doesn't is Strickland.
I think they say like, oh, they really need Stephen Graham, his character, because he's like one of the only people that can successfully bond with the symbiote. By the end of the movie, they're like, yeah, just hop it around. Everybody can get one.
Well, I think the implication is it's a long-term bond, because they established that in 2, I think, because like Venom jumps to other people and it's fine for a while. But
right.
Yeah. So I think there's a little bit. So I'll give them a little bit of credit there that like in the moment, like, we're fine. But otherwise, yeah, like they're definitely playing fast and loose with like at the end, it's just all the symbiotes versus the Xenophage, and they do a bad job. They don't have a good time fighting this guy. But yeah, it's a fine performance, but like you said, it kind of feels like we're setting up for more. We get a tragic backstory, we get some stuff to work with there, but ultimately the character is still a minor character in this film, and you presume there would be more to come, but we'll see, I suppose.
Speaking of more to come, we have Clark Bacco as a character that is nicknamed Christmas due to the Christmas tree pennant they wear on their lab coat. So she's a partner with Juno Temple's character that are most scenes together. Doesn't quite get the whole backstory treatment, but again, feels like a character we're setting up in this universe that the movie expects us to see again. She is also sympathetic to the symbiotes, but not quite to the degree as Juno Temple. Eventually she does come around and think, dude, this is like the end of the world stuff. We should maybe consider offing these things if it's going to save the universe. She gets to wear a symbiote and be one of the heroes in the final act of this movie as well. I'm not familiar with this actor. It looks like she's done a few other high-profile things. The Handmaid's Tale, maybe the biggest thing before this movie. But certainly has a presence. I would, again, just like Juno Temple, would love to see her in some more work.
Yeah. She's playing these are supposedly characters from the comics. Sadie is a person who has been possessed by Lasher, who is introduced, one of the group established in Lethal Protector. And Sadie is one of those people who Lasher eventually possesses, but later on, during Donny Cates' run on Venom Incarnate. So Sadie as a character is also introduced later. And again, there's nothing the same except the names, but we are definitely trying to draw that line between various different things. Yeah, I actually know her from Letterkenny, the like Canadian comedy of centering around Letterkenny, Ontario, Canada. She plays why am I forgetting what the character's name is? Wayne's love interest, who's one of the main characters. So she's on like 35 episodes, so it's a good recurring role, and that's where actually I know her from. So when I saw her here, I was like, oh hey, cool, breaking out of the Canadian direct-to-streaming comedy world into American blockbuster cinema. Thumbs up.
And just, I want to give quick shout outs to the rest of the Moon family. This is the family of Rhys Ifan's character. We have Alana Ubach playing his wife, Nova, and then Hala Finley and Dash McCloud playing his sons named Echo and Leaf. I love it. So over the top generic hippie, but I love this family. Their scenes are some of my favorites for sure.
The mom actually plays Marsha's friend in the Brady Bunch movie. The one who's clearly like in love with Marsha, but she never notices. Like I was watching this movie and I was like, huh, like that person looks familiar, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I went and looked it up and I was like, oh, that's why. She's the one that ends up punching out the dude. And then the other guy gets credit for it, and she's really sad about it. But watch the Brady Bunch movie if you hadn't, guys. It's great. But it's the dynamic here is ridiculous. There's the fact that like the parents have decided that they were going to take their kids to see Area 51. It's ridiculous, but the dynamic they have is great, and the performances are all pretty fun. And
I guess we got to shout out Andy Serkis as Noel. That was,
I guess,
a big announcement for this movie comes out, and I assume he did motion capture, but Noel hangs out in a prison with his head bowed. In the post-credit scene, he lifts his head. That's the extent of his movements. So I'm thinking it's more of a voice role, maybe the more significance there. But still, the dude's in like 2 scenes. It's not a lot of screen time. But again, and we keep saying it, you imagine there was more movies planned, and this casting would have expanded into a larger role, but it doesn't seem likely it's going to happen, but never say never.
Never say never. Yeah, I mean, obviously the line for circus at the conventions is ridiculous. You could say
now
the
that
line for
genuinely...
circus at conventions would be a circus. But
what do you think he is citing the most? You think it's still Lord of the Rings?
100%.
Okay. Because like he's in the MCU with claws, so that character isn't, huge deal. He's a bit... I mean, I'm sure he signed something, but yeah.
Okay. Don't misunderstand me. He signed stuff from Star Wars. He signed stuff from the MCU.
Apes.
He signed stuff from this Planet of the Apes. Lord of the Rings is what?
Yeah, you're right.
That's the thing.
Nothing's going to top that, yeah.
Those won Academy Awards.
Who was he in Star Wars?
Snoke.
Oh, right.
And then he was also in Andor, but I think he actually plays like a person in Andor.
Yeah, he's in one of the best episodes of the first season, yeah.
Yeah, and then and then he's Claw in Age of Ultron, Black Panther. He's Alfred in the Batman. I mean, he's got...
Oh, right, dude. Yeah, he's signing everything.
He's got everything. So you've got Venom cred because he directs Venom 2 and he's in this. You've got Sony cred, you've got SSU cred, you've got MCU cred, you've got DC cred, you've got Star Wars cred, you've got Lord of the Rings cred. Like, this man is like the bridge between worlds. Like, there's really, if there's one man that can bring us all together at this point, it's Andy Serkis. So
he needs like a Fast and Furious and a Star Trek, and then he'll have everything.
Has he done a Star Trek? I wonder. Because has he been in a Star Trek thing? Because it's still very possible that he could. His filmography does not have the word Star Trek on it, though. So I guess not yet.
Do you think him and like Doug Jones like ever have a beer and just talk about the things they're in that they're underappreciated for? I mean, if like Andy Serkis is elevated beyond just behind this, I think Doug Jones genuinely doesn't get enough credit.
Andy Serkis has like genuinely moved into like live action stuff, and sizable live action stuff. I don't know that Doug Jones has. Like, Doug Jones has live action roles, don't get me wrong. There's whole roles where I'm just like, that's clearly Doug Jones.
I think Hellboy, he finally gets his flowers, but he did so much more beyond that.
Right. And even now, like, he's still kind of like, it's still not uncommon. Like, he does in the first Hellboy, he doesn't even voice Abe Sapien. David Hyde Pierce does, but Hyde Pierce, like, went uncredited because he wanted all the credit to go to Doug Jones. And then he does voice him in Hellboy 2, but like even Silver Surfer.
I never knew that.
Surfer, but Lawrence Fishburne plays a Silver Surfer. Yes, in the first Hellboy.
His voice changes from the first movie to the second movie.
Yes.
Is it super noticeable? Like, now that I know that, I go back and watch him, am I going to be like, oh, wow.
No. I don't know if Doug Jones is like purposely kind of trying to sound like David Hyde Pierce, but it's also just proper sounding English I mean, the thing is when you have a normal sounding human next to Hellboy, they're always going to kind of sound normal by comparison. But yeah, so I definitely think Circus gets more flowers at this point than Doug Jones. Circus is certainly more well known at this point than Doug Jones.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Andrew. Well, like I said, that covers the cast here. So that means it's time to talk about the scenes of the film. And we are going to start by talking about the best scene in the movie, or at least our personal favorite. So, Andrew, in your opinion, when is this movie firing on all cylinders? And what is the best scene in Venom, The Last Dance?
I'm going to be going with a scene that is not really our finale, but it's a scene where we kind of get to have a little bit of fun with the symbiote. I'm going with the sequence where Venom is almost kidnapped by a mysterious group called the Six, which can't have been a mistake as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if the implication here is that due to their inability to deal with superpowered individuals, the Six morphs into a group of people with powers to fight these things more directly.
Do you think that's the SSU's version of SEAL Team 6? They upgrade to the Sinister Six? You think that's the implication? They couldn't get their targets.
Guys, he's not stopping. He's not stopping. He's continuing to speak. Oh, God.
Yeah, the Six. And, Sony's been wanting to make a Sinister Six movie since.
So it adds
forever.
a little bit of credence to me that maybe the implication was the Sinister Six versus Null, but I don't remember where I heard that. I don't remember what the idea was. But anyway, or if it was the Sinister Six versus Venom, maybe. Like, maybe the implication was going to be that instead of fighting Spider-Man, the Six would fight Venom. That makes more sense. But anyway, so this is right after Venom has possessed a horse, and we got horse Venom. And
is it called possessing, Andrew? Is that the proper term?
Yes.
Okay.
No, he bonds, infiltrates. I mean, symbiosis is a form of possession, isn't it?
I don't know. I was genuinely asking. I don't know.
I don't know, man. I'm just using words. But anyway, so the horse stops. They're very clear to show that the horse survived. I like they make a point to be like the horse runs away to be normal. But at this point, the Six attack with Strickland in tow. We get a big action set piece, kind of down like a flowing river, so it's a little bit of a change up there. Venom and Eddie get separated, and we get, Eddie fighting these people by himself, ends up killing one, which he seems sad about briefly. And then they almost kidnap Venom, but then Venom jumps to a fish, and then that fish eats another fish and turns into a bigger fish. And then he jumps from a fish to a frog, and then he jumps into the water, and it's this kind of cool little sequence where you get to see these briefly Venom-possessed animals that kind of builds into this big, trip over the waterfall, where Venom rebonds with Eddie, and they turn into Venom so that Eddie survives it, even though the soldier
Andrew,
survives it with no trouble.
He possesses Eddie.
He possesses Eddie, but the thing is, he's like, I can't let you die. But then the soldier survives the fall without a symbiote, so it doesn't.
Venom didn't
like
know.
Eddie.
He didn't want to take the chance.
Okay, fine. So then, because he transforms into Venom, the Xenophage shows up, and we get a big action set piece where we watch the Xenophage maul through some of these guys before Venom slowly escapes. And Strickland is forced to reconcile with this. But anyway, we get some fun action here. It's during the day, which I always like when we're not watching stuff in like the cringy dark night. The dark of night, sorry, not the dark night. But we get to see some fun things with Venom, jumping between different animals, from the horse to the fish to the frog and everything. We get a little bit of cool action here with the Six. Who he has to later in the movie. He's like, I've reconstituted the Six. And I was like, how'd you do that? Like, do you just have like a bank of people where you're like, well, 4 of them are dead. Send me 4. The 6 are back. And it's like, do they ever need 7?
It's like
is
changing out your
the
poker
appropriate
hand,
number?
You just discard and draw.
Like, is 6 always acceptable? Is that always going to be enough? Like, is there ever a moment where you're like, you know what? Send me 12. And it's like, no.
Send me 2
not.
6s.
But send me 2 6s. Send me 3 6s. This one's real bad. But it's anyway. It's a fun little sequence. I like the stuff with Venom here. This is a little bit more kind of the classic Venom action, and that's kind of why I'm picking it as my favorite.
It's a great pick. I mean, everyone, that horse, they knew they had money there because that was all over the trailers. And
Yep.
The trailer doesn't even show you like a bad guy, anything about the plot, but at the very end, they show you like Venom horse, and people are like, oh, yeah, well, I got to see that. That was like a lot of fun. Venom frog is great. And then you mentioned the xenophage finally starts to get killing people. This is where it's revealed that when it consumes something, it sprays their blood out the back of its head
Dude,
like a
insane.
garbage
This is
disposal, and it
insane.
makes that
Like-
buzzsaw noise. So cool. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
anything about these creatures. Maybe you could say, considering they're basically the big bad of the movie, we should know a little bit more. But it's a fun design. It looks a little Cloverfieldy, but specifically the fact that they consume something and shoot the blood out the back of their neck is the coolest little rad metal detail. Never gets old. It's chomping up the symbiotes at the end of the movie, splattering them out the back of their head. It's I always love it. So much fun.
Yeah.
100%.
It's just one of those things that's like goes so much harder than it needs to. Like, it's just like, yeah. I'm like, hey, I'm not going to complain.
It's fun. I do question, he kills that member of the Sixth underwater with a handgun, and I do question if that's possible. Maybe, Andrew, I don't know, might be the most unrealistic part of the movie for me, but no, this is a good sequence. I like that you point out that it takes place during the day. That always give props for that. Like, at night, I imagine it makes special effects a little bit easier, but it gets so tiresome when that's all, action only ever takes place at night. I always shout out the first Avengers movie for that. Like, the whole huge climax of that movie is middle of the day, and it separates it from like every other movie of that scale, and it's awesome. It's very cool. It's a great pick, Andrew. I'm gonna pick a different scene as my favorite. I'm gonna pick a scene that takes place at night, Andrew, but it takes place much earlier. I think it's basically the first action scene of the movie. Eddie finds out that he's a wanted man. He's on the run, and he kind of just stumbles across these bad guys. There's all these dogs being held captive. Venom's like, well, I bet there's some bad guys around, and I'm hungry before we go on this big road trip. So all these dogs being held captive, presumably like for dog fighting, for some bad stuff. And these cartel-looking guys show up to confront Eddie, and why is he in there looking at the dogs? Eddie tries to warn him, for your own good, you should just get out of here, but they don't listen. So Venom starts popping out. And for most of this, he's not quite transforming into Venom, using like the black tentacle things, but it's just a super fun action set piece. These guys don't stand a chance. Venom is toying with him. Eddie's toying with him. He's dangling upside down and taunting him. And in the end, he's fully transformed into Venom, holding these 4 guys up in front of him. They try to get the line right, the famous Venom line. Who are you? We're Venom! And Venom just can't wait, and they can't get in sync with the cool line. You get that great, little buddy stuff with the two of them. And Venom then decapitates all 4 of them, eats all 4 of their heads. Which you gotta, he's super hungry, but he only eats the head. It seems a little wasteful on his part. But this tone, this is what I want from a Venom movie. And this is what I want Venom doing. I want him taking out lowlifes, people that were okay with watching them get killed in fun ways. I feel like this is the entire thing that second movie was setting up. The lethal protector. Like them working together to take out the trash. And after this scene, we don't really get back to this because it gets caught up in the xenophages and the Codex and the Area 51 and Null and all that stuff. But the movie starts really strong by delivering exactly what I wanted. The promise of that second movie, I should say. So I've got to pick this as my favorite because this scene is everything I want in a Venom movie.
I think it's a good pick. Like you said, this is kind of the tone of the original, as much as that tone can be with biting guys' heads off. But I do like it a lot. I think you get, the kind of, like you said, the lethal protector. This is kind of what you're expecting from Venom at this point. And it is fun. It's a good action set piece. You get to have a lot of fun. We get to see kind of Venom just beating up some really bad guys. And how's
And
that bad?
He says "Hola, bitches," which is maybe a little culturally insensitive, but it's funny, and I like hearing that Venom says that.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Andrew, I'm looking at my notes as I'm talking about the scene. I'm going to rewind all the way back to the beginning of this movie. And I mean the beginning. This movie has the 100 Years of Columbia opening. And I love to see it. Anytime they make a fun twist on the typical opening production studio montage, it's great. I think we've had this exact conversation multiple times because I know like the Spider-Verse movies do it. They have it like phase through different universes and art styles. And my gut says, oh, they should do something fun every movie. But I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be special if they do it every movie. But I geek out anytime they make a twist on their opening logo.
Yeah, it's always fun. Like, we've talked before about how like unique openings and logos in front of movies are always fun. Tron, always a great example. John Carter, I think maybe had a special one went for Disney. I don't remember, but just always fun to see.
Fantastic Four. I don't think we mentioned it on our bonus episode, but the typical Marvel opening you see in every Marvel movie where the words Marvel are flying up and the different scenes from past movies playing on the letters, they don't do that. It's a 60s style Marvel lettering, a unique little animated logo, and that fits that movie specifically. Mwah.
Because why would?
Love
because
it.
there's nothing to flash back to in that universe. Except
Yeah,
their
I
own
guess,
origin, I guess. I like that. I don't know if you noticed this with Superman. There's no WB logo at the beginning of Superman.
I don't think I clocked that.
Just a DC Studios logo.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Trying to elevate that branding, I guess.
I suppose.
I guess Marvel movies don't have Disney in the front when we all know they're Disney movies.
Maybe they don't. Yeah, because I think Marvel Studios might be a separate thing. I don't know. Hollywood math.
Yeah. We mentioned Juno Temple being in this movie earlier, and now I know that she is, she's Keely in Ted Lasso, because I'm watching this movie now for this podcast, having seen all 3 seasons of Ted Lasso, which means when the movie opens and we get to see that bartender, who we'll talk more about how much we've seen this bartender. We see a bartender being in this movie, and it is none other than Rojas, Danny Rojas from Ted Lasso, the second ace. Yeah, football is life. Love this guy. It's a pretty small role. I mean, unlike Juno Temple, I don't think originally getting cast in this role is necessarily launching him into the movies in a more significant way, but just infectiously happy guy. He gets to have a few little moments. I love when he's talking about how crazy, he sees Venom like make a drink behind the bar, and then he's like describing what Venom did to Strickland when he shows up later. And it's pretty funny. Well, obviously, we get to see 2 looks because we get to see him in 616 MCU, and we get to see him in whatever they call the Sony universe. He's one of those people in separate universes that looks exactly the same. They play fast and loose with how that works, but he just has long hair.
We already went through this. We already talked about this on Fantastic Four, or maybe we didn't. I don't remember.
I don't remember if it was on the episode or not, but it's very inconsistent, and it bothers me, but it doesn't bother you. He also gets to be the very last person you see in the movie in the mid-credit scene.
It's the very last person.
Oh yeah, other than a CG cockroach. Yeah, I guess so.
That's a Venom roach, man. You watch out. Anyway, football is life.
Football is life. That's the big takeaway, Andrew. A runner-up maybe for favorite scene of mine, or just one of my favorite. Like I said, anytime the hippie family's on screen is wonderful. Yep. Biggest laugh in the movie for me. I love, Venom or Eddie Brock stumbles upon their little caravan campsite. He makes them some vegetables, and Venom doesn't let him eat it. He throws them all in the woods behind him. And Martin is telling them that they really want to see aliens, and Eddie's like, "Well, I hope they're nice, for your sake." And Martin says, Oh, I know a dark force when I see one, Eddie. And then they both kind of just look up into the tree line and they just hold it there for a few seconds and then move on to the next scene because he's just blissfully
It's
unaware
ridiculous.
that he's sitting next to an extraterrestrial
Venom.
with
Yeah.
Venom. Yeah. It's a nice little beat of the movie. This family, they're wonderful. I love them all. Man, this movie, just to reiterate, Venom 1, I think it's on the episode, just too many tones. Are you serious? Are you silly? Are you goofy? Are you fun? Venom 2, I think they nail it. They lean into the over the top. Venom 3, we're right back to having a bunch of different tones. Hashtag PP. It's just, we're right back there. There's this scene where they're all in the caravan. The mom is driving. Martin has a guitar in the back. He starts singing David Bowie's Space Oddity as a family sing-along, which is just the most hippie thing. Somehow Eddie manages to not sing along, which of all songs, I don't know how you managed to not sing along to that one. It's so fun. Mr. Deeds couldn't resist. But there's this nice like inner, Venom speaking is basically inner dialogue. We're talking about how nice this family is and how much he enjoys this. And you zoom out for a minute, like I don't know why Eddie is so, or why Venom, I should say, is so like. I don't know how we get here. How we get like Venom like reminiscing of how nice it would be to have a family. Like I don't know if that's how it's the motivations. You zoom out at all, it maybe falls apart. But in the moment, it's just a sweet little scene with this family that is all singing along. Even though the daughter is clearly like over most of it, she still manages to sing along and participate. The son gives him some chocolate that Venom eats later. It's really sweet, and it's just it's a nice little moment. The tone is unlike anything else in this movie. It's weird that it's here, but I think in the scene, I'm buying in, and it's one of those moments where you kind of feel like Venom, not Eddie Brock of Venom, but Venom himself is a fully realized character.
No, all these scenes with the family, I think, are great. I think they're fun. They add, like I said, the proceedings of the movie could be a little dire without it, and this adds a nice little, like I said, little break from like the military aspect, the Knoll aspect, and the movie's better for it. And obviously having the cast they have for that family, I think they're all pitch perfect and they play these parts super well. But yeah, these scenes in particular are they're really great.
Of course, the family's got to show up later in the movie. They end up in the same destination at Area 51. The Martin family just wants to see some aliens. It looks like the base is not operational until all hell breaks loose. All the symbiotes escape from underneath the bunker onto the surface. So Venom comes face to face with Martin and his family, who recognize him and says, Eddie, it's me, Martin, and family. Like in the middle of this hectic battlefield. It's so fun. Eddie reveals that he has Venom inside of him. Venom pops out in his little Alex Mack way that he does to speak. And the family's kind of freaked out, but Venom again is really sweet here. And Venom himself tells the little boy, thanks for the chocolate. And so the little boy realizes that Venom is the one that ate it, which was, it's just super cute. Venom saves the family when the tower that they're on to get a good view falls over in the battle. And then Martin gets to return the favor. You think that the family has escaped, but Martin comes back to blow apart the xenophage right before it eats Venom. It's so wonderful. He literally blows like the head off, decapitates it. He sees that the head starts blinking and it's about to reform. And he goes, oh, I'm so sorry, and drops the gun and runs away in like the funniest way any man has like ever ran before. Just so awkwardly running. It's a great, I've said it already probably multiple times episode, but the tone that Reese as Martin is bringing to this movie, that's when the movie is, it's in the zone that I want it to be in anyway. Yeah, the best.
I agree. It is he's great. Obviously Reese is a fantastic actor, and I think he's making the most of every time he's on screen, and we're all the better for it.
We get some, what I would say is classic Venom action in the finale, whenever he is taking out the xenophages, because we get Eddie Brock on a motorcycle, taking us back to that first movie, going off big ramps, big jumps, using his long arms to get back on the bike. And in the end, Venom is going to sacrifice himself to save everyone. Because to destroy the Codex, you see, Andrew, one of the two has to die, and then there's no Codex anymore. So it's either the host, Eddie Brock, or the symbiote Venom. So Eddie thinks that they are both going to sacrifice themselves, but Venom tosses Eddie aside and captures all of the xenophages, gets them underneath an acid bath, and turns on the shower, and they all melt away. And that's the end of Venom. It's a fun little action scene in the movie.
Yeah. This is basically Venom making the ultimate sacrifice because he knows this is basically the only way to seemingly get to stop Noel from potentially coming back, is to sacrifice himself. And then there's a mid-credit sequence that suggests maybe not. But yeah, this is classic Venom. Obviously, you get the moment with Eddie and Venom where Eddie has to basically say goodbye and tugs at the heartstrings just a little bit because you know he's not gone. You know he comes back from this. You know that there's no way. But it's classic Venom action here. We get pretty much all of our characters at this point have morphed into symbiotes. Basically, the xenophage crashes into the Area 51 and causes this whole issue. Noel sends more xenophages, and so all the symbiotes that are basically captured here start bonding with people. So you get all these different colored symbiotes. You get yellow, blue, brown, all these different ones. This is where Juno Temple's character bonds with Agony, the purple one that she kind of gets the bond with the super speed. Christmas gets her symbiote. We get Stephen Graham's symbiote as well, briefly fighting the xenophage. So all sorts of symbiote action. And then ultimately, when all the chips are down, it's Venom making the ultimate sacrifice here. Working with Strickland to an extent. Strickland blows the whole place up so that the tanks all explode and seemingly make this all go even more quickly. And then Eddie is left without Venom.
There's this sort of epilogue scene where Eddie finally makes it to New York, which was their original destination. Venom talked about wanting to see the Statue of Liberty, and Eddie gets to finally go see it and says, "I'll never forget you, buddy." And it's a nice little touching moment. Do we need flashbacks and a musical montage to scenes from the first two movies and scenes from earlier in this movie that we just watched? I don't know. Maybe they're pushing a little too hard to try to get a tear out of my eye there. But I do like the putting a bow on it by seeing the Statue of Liberty and shouting out that he misses his buddy.
Yeah.
And that's a wrap on Venom 3. Look, there's stuff to like here. It's a Venom movie. He's biting heads off. There's fun things. I think you could probably guess where I rank these movies based on how I talked about them, but we're here not to rank things, but to talk about the positives, and I think we've done that. Andrew, I want to ask you a few questions about some of the things that are teased in this movie, though, okay?
Sure.
Yes or no, are we going to see this come back or pay off in a future movie? Juno Temple and or the character of Christmas?
No.
The little bit of symbiote at the very end with the cockroach?
Maybe.
And here's the big one. We know, I think, from the post-credits of No Way Home, that while Venom was in 616, he left behind a little bit of goop on that bar counter. Do you think that goop is revisited in the MCU?
No.
Okay. We'll see how that plays out. We've got Secret Wars coming up. Famously, the first time that Spider-Man wore a black costume. There's a Spider-Man movie coming out before Doomsday. This might be the time to pull the trigger on Black Suit Spider-Man or Venom. But you're thinking if they do that, they're not picking up that thread from the bar?
I don't think so, only because I would what I would think is that the MCU wants to do a full, proper version of Venom themselves. While I understand that the multiverse saga has definitely introduced aspects of other universes, those have largely been done in such a way that the MCU characters themselves are largely still intact, if that makes sense. Like, obviously, Spider-Man had all the other villains from the other movies in it, but the end of that movie is still Spider-Man as Spider-Man in his universe. There's been very few things that rest on... namely being that I don't think the MCU wants to attach their Spider-Man and their version of Venom to these movies in such a way that, like, that Venom, knowing where that comes from, requires you to then, like, investigate all the Venom movies. I think they want it to be a standalone, separate thing where, you know, maybe that comes back in Secret Wars and it's just a one-off thing and then it recombines with Eddie. I don't know. I have no idea. But I don't think that is how Spider-Man gets Venom in the MCU.
Hey.
Because also, Venom is a bad guy. Most places when he first shows up with Spider-Man. So like the whole premise of Venom originally is that he goes to Eddie Brock and it's a villainous persona that fights Spider-Man originally before we get to the anti-hero version. So in that case, I can't imagine how this Venom would be a villain offhand or something that like leaves Spider-Man or whatever. That whole thing just seems way more complicated than you should bother with. It would almost be like casting an X-Men character in one of your TV shows as a former actor from an X-Men movie and then having it not be the case.
Okay. Hashtag VP. A little sassy there. Time will tell. We'll see how those predictions play out, Andrew. That is a wrap on Comic Book Movie Month. Glad we got a few more under our belt, Andrew. We have talked about so many comic book movies.
We have. There's been a lot made, and we have found a way to somehow talk about a lot of them.
We sure have, Andrew. We sure have. And certainly not the end of it. I'm sure there'll be some best of the best or some other pick. You know, well, it's always a field we like to revisit. It's where our roots lay, as we have said. It's how our podcast started off. But Andrew, we're moving into a new month, the month of August, which means a brand new theme for the show. During the month of August, we will be covering, you ready for this? Real bands. Movies featuring actual bands. You know, back in May of this year, we did Fake Band Month. We talked about movies that have a fake band in it. But through August, we were talking about movies that feature prominently an actual band. That's right. If you want to know what that lineup is, you know what to do. Hop into our Discord server. There's a link right there in the show notes. If you haven't joined us yet, what are you waiting for? It's a free community to join and hang out, talk about nerdy stuff, look at movies we have coming up, make suggestions for future episodes. We would love to have you in there. Andrew, I'm looking at the lineup right now. This is a wild one. Talk about variety.
It is indeed.
One of these movies might be the oldest film we've ever covered or close to it. We're spanning decades this month.
We are. It might be the oldest movie we've ever covered. We haven't gone too far back in some cases because we try to maintain some sense of cultural relevance to the things we're talking about, which is why you wouldn't let me do John Candy Month. But it's
Batman 66 is the oldest movie we've covered, I think.
I think this is slightly after.
Okay.
I think this is slightly after. I think so. We'll see.
All right.
I think it's 68 for this one. So
okay. So if you want to see what that movie is we're talking about, everything else we're covering, again, hop into our Discord server, come and join us, join the fun, and come back next week as we kick off Real Bands Month. And until then, just remember, maybe not every movie is great,
but all movies have greatness.
Thank you to Mark Benavides for singing our theme song. You can check him out on Instagram at NotThatMarkAnthony, and thanks to Mitch for the music. I used to always say you can check him out on Twitter, and then I reached out to him. I was like, "You still there?" And he said, "No, I'm not still there." So I think it is Blue Sky now. I have updated the show notes. Check it out there, and then I'll have to remember what it is for the next time I do closing credits. Check out our store on TeePublic for the best of the rest of merch. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. It's the only way that we grow. Follow us on social media at BOTRcast. Thank you. All right, I'm hit record.
I'm already recording, so you've got me whining for 2.5 minutes.
All right. Let's count it up, Andrew. 1,
2,
3,
4,
5.
6. Sorry, there was a massive delay there. I in that moment, I forgot that I say 6.